maybe 6 to 8 minutes each, and then we'll have time for question and answer at the end of that too. So you can kind of hold your questions as we go, and then we'll get to ask our questions of all three of them after they share. But again, the focus is developing dementia-friendly programs for people at varied stages of dementia. And just by way of a little introduction, so when we're designing and offering programs for people with dementia or facilitating them or being in them, one of the many factors to consider includes the fact that dementia changes over time, and what works well for someone at an early stage of dementia may not be a great fit for someone with a later stage of dementia, or vice versa. So, for example, someone early on or recently diagnosed may feel frustrated if they're in a program for people with memory loss where there's not that space to really reflect on what's going on or to share challenges, even within like a social setting. Whereas maybe somebody with more later stage dementia might find it frustrating or confusing to talk about dementia even, and they potentially might prefer just being in the moment and enjoying whatever it is without that focus. Overall, thought, care, and attention must be placed to ensure that a program is truly accessible and matching the strengths and needs of an audience. It's not as simple as just creating a flyer that says everyone's welcome, everyone with dementia, come one, come all. There needs to be thought put into it, and a number of us have dabbled in that realm of how do you develop tailored programming that is accessible to people at varied stages of dementia, either by segmenting out and saying this program is best for this people at this stage of dementia, or being super thoughtful about how do you create a program where literally everybody coming to the table will feel comfortable. So I'm excited for us to hear from three folks today that are working in that realm. And we're going to be hearing from Melinda Franklin, who's a volunteer with the Alzheimer's Association with the Memory Loss Zoo Walk, and Mary Jane Connect, who's the creative aging manager at the Fry Art Museum, talking about their programming. And then Kay Lambert, who is a wonderful volunteer with the UW Memory and Brain Wellness Center, talking about the virtual coffee chat program that she's been facilitating for a long time now. So we'll go in that order. Again, each person has 6 to 8 minutes, and then we'll do questions after that. And folks will be covering topics like describing their program briefly, talking about any challenges that they've had, how they've overcome those challenges, and tips they have for other people who would like to consider starting a program for people at varied stages of dementia. So first up, we have Melinda. Welcome to the virtual stage.
Okay, I'm going to try and share here. Oh, it's failed to start. Oh, that's a good start. Allison, I assume you've given me sharing.
I have. What I can also do is give you like a power booster and make you a co-host or something and see if that helps. We'll do that. But I did give the ability to share. So try now, see if that does anything differently. Yay.
Okay. So I put together this PowerPoint for you all and got up this morning to try and run through it. And I realized that I would have taken up, I don't know, at least half an hour, and I have 8 minutes. And so I spent the morning eliminating a lot of the material, which is really hard for me because I love the zoo walk. Our zoo walkers love the zoo walk, and I wanted to tell you all about it. But instead, I'm going to focus on what Mary Grace seemed to be wanting me to focus on, which is the middle stage memory loss zoo walk that we just started about a year ago. But first, let me okay. First, let me give you a little history. And this history's been pieced together recently because a lot of the players are no longer around, but it began initially as a walk for people with memory loss, as just a walk in the park. And about a year later, at the time, it was sponsored by the Washington State Alzheimer's Association in partnership with the Seattle Parks and Rec Lifelong Recreation Program and the Finney Neighborhood Association, and primarily the Greenwood Senior Center that we all know. And it was very successful. Participants in the program said they really liked the challenges that they were dealing with. They liked being outside. They liked the walking exercise part of it. And they liked to be involved socially. It was just a really nice opportunity to combine both. And they said they felt really energized and they had a more positive attitude and outlook after participating in the program. About a year later, the walk moved to the Seattle Zoo. And the first walk only had 3 people with memory loss, 2 care partners, and 3 volunteers. And that the participation steadily grew as more people found out that, you know, they could go to the zoo and enjoy other people in the same situation. The format, which still basically is in place today, is you walk for about 50 to 60 minutes, and then we go to the cafe and socialize. The zoo provides the tickets. The Alzheimer's Association provides the pre-screening because you are screened to make sure that, you know, you are initially that you were early stage. And the Alzheimer's Association also trains all the volunteers. And by 2015, there were about 18 to 20 consistent walkers, and under normal circumstances, that size group was handled by 4 volunteers. And so the interest continued to grow to the point where we decided to start a second walk. And that second walk was based on the same principles, and the group filled up really quickly and continued to have the same success. So when COVID hit in March 2020, we had just a full-blown walk with everybody really enjoying what became about 2 hours at the zoo every single week. And we walked for 44 weeks. We walked for 11 weeks and take 2 weeks off. And then we do that 4 times. So I've been doing this for 10 years. So I think I've probably done about 425 zoo walks, if my math is right. So, however, when COVID hit, we stopped the walks at the very beginning of March in 2020. And during that time, while we were on hiatus during COVID, we started to talk about starting a middle stage walk. It was really hard to transition people out of the walk because they were doing well in the walk. We were able to be flexible and facilitate the middle stage walkers, although it wasn't always easy. But because the volunteers were so great, we were able to keep middle stage walkers on the walk. And so Mary Grace, one of her questions, well, you know, why a middle stage walk? And, you know, I was not a big proponent of of having just a middle stage walk. I kind of liked everyone being together, because when you walk for 44 weeks a year, you become a community, you become a family. However, I did realize that we might be able to provide a better experience for those with middle stage if we put together a middle stage walk. That being said, you know, we knew firsthand that these middle stage walkers could enjoy and were enjoying the zoo walk. You know, as they walked across the parking lot, they were waving their hands and saying hi and smiling just as much as the early stage walkers. and they did well on the walk. However, there were some challenges. Some of them had increased, they like to go their own way a little bit more. They didn't necessarily want to stay with the group. So the volunteers had to keep their, eyes open for our wanderers. They tended to have diminished, some of them diminished verbal skills, which also took more volunteer power to keep them engaged. They had a slower gait, and it wasn't unusual that we would have, it was all one walk, but we'd end up with two groups, which also makes volunteering, that made the job harder for our volunteers. So I started to listen to the Alzheimer's Association, to Karen Thompson, and I decided I'd go along with the program, and I volunteered to lead the middle stage walk. And it was, again, one of the best decisions I made. I've learned so much from working with just the middle stage, and it does take some special efforts. Just to kind of go back a little bit, I have to be honest, I'm going to talk a little bit about cafe time just because I love this picture so much. This was this year with the middle stage group. We're in the cafe, we're having coffee. The care partners usually sit with their partner, although they still have a tendency to talk among themselves. The zoo walk is a respite for them too, especially the middle stage care partners. So the volunteers, we talk a lot about, keeping an eye out for people with memory loss who might not be engaged because their care partners are all talking with each other. And the person with middle stage might have diminished verbal skills. So the volunteers, we try and spread out. We sometimes look like, I don't know, we move around the table, like we're to try and make sure that everyone's engaged. And we use this time also to make announcements, pass out information, especially about other programs. We sing happy birthday, and some of our care partners bring wonderful treats to the zoo walk, and we gobble them up. So Mary Grace asked me to talk about maybe some of the tips I might be able to give anyone starting a middle stage program. The zoo middle stage program is slower paced. We spend more time at the exhibits. When I'm talking about what's going on with the baby gorillas, for example, I slow my speech down. I talk a little bit louder, especially in the summer when it's crowded. We look for quieter places to be. For example, the cafe in the summer is absolutely bedlam with all the kids and strollers. And so we try and get a table outside so everyone can hear better. And the walkers aren't apt to trip over, a stroller, myself included. We have more volunteers on the mid-stage walk than on the early stage walk. We work hard to respect what the people with middle stage memory loss can and can't do, and focus on what they can do and encourage what they can do. We talk a lot of, the volunteers and I talk a lot about trying to listen carefully and respond appropriately. We try to reduce physical challenges. We might take a little bit longer route just so that we're not going over areas with stones or even pavement where their tree roots have caused issues in the pavement. And it's really important to be ready to make adjustments, kind of be nimble. Don't get too set in your ways, which is something that happens to me. I don't like change, but I realize when you're working with the middle stage group, you do have to be ready to make change. And I have found that it is extremely important to stay in close contact and have discussions with the care partners. How is, Dave enjoying the walk? Is there anything we can do so that he'll enjoy it more? Is it too fast paced? Is it, how does he do when it's noisy and inside? Does he still have the same, good time that he, you just told me about? So in the care partners are, is the other thing that on the mid-stage walk, the care partners are absolutely exhausted. I notice a huge difference in the energy they have and the attention they're able to give. They more readily just kind of take a step back and let the volunteers become more involved with their partner. The other thing that I just want to mention real quickly is I encourage, if someone comes up to me and says, oh, my sister's going to be in town and I'm wondering if she can come with us to the zoo walk. I think it's really important that friends and family, even children, we had a granddaughter that walked with us at least once a month, that they participate and see what the person with memory loss is doing, because it enhances their relationship outside the zoo walk. So observations, I've noticed that the middle stage walk, more people miss the walk. They also drop out sooner. And the care partners express so much appreciation because there aren't a lot of middle stage walks or programs for them to participate in. And I want to leave you with what a care partner said to me a couple of weeks ago, and I'll never forget it. I said, how is Dean enjoying the walk? And she said, oh, Melinda, it is so wonderful. And I so appreciate what you and all the volunteers do for this walk, because it sets the pace for me and Dean for the rest of the week. To be able to get up in the morning and attend the zoo walk and have such a wonderful time means when we are able to do that, the rest of the week goes better. So any questions?
Thank you so much, Melinda. I'm going to have folks hold questions until after the others go, but that
Okay.
was fabulous. What a beautiful presentation. I love being able to see your photos. And I want to just say virtual round of applause for Melinda. 10 years of volunteering and service to the community and thinking about how many people's lives you touched. Thank you so much.
I love it.
Next up, we have Mary Jane Connect, again from the Fry Art Museum, and she's going to be talking also about how they've been very thoughtful over time in serving people with different stages of dementia within their creative arts programs. So Mary Jane, you have 6 to 8 minutes. I'm going to encourage you to keep your own time because I'm not good at interrupting. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Hi, everyone. Great to have this opportunity to kind of reflect. I think, like Pam mentioned earlier, I think a lot of us are feeling like in many ways we are starting over again since COVID. So yeah. So here at the Fry Art Museum, we're on First Hill in Seattle, and we began our first program for adults living with dementia and their care partners, a program called Here Now. We started it in 2010. It was designed initially as a 6-month pilot, which we did with the Alzheimer's Association and with Elderwise. So it's always great to have Tamara here. She brings a lot of experience and really helping us get this program off the ground, which continues since 2010. As I mentioned, it is a program for both the person living with dementia and their care partner to come into the Fry Art Museum and be with a small group of other individuals to have an open discussion about art, and then to go up into our art studio and work with a teaching artist and do a creative project. The registration process is it's a little different. It's not so much, I would say, a screening. It's more a registration where we have a phone conversation with, usually it's the care partner, sometimes it's both. And we describe the program. So I'm going to quickly describe the program, and then I'll give you a sense of how that registration helps people to decide whether it would be a good program for their loved one. Because I'm not really comfortable. I'm not really coming from a place of saying like, well, what stage are you living in? Because is your loved one living in? Because, you know, it's kind of a day-to-day thing. And so I'll describe the program that we're a small group, 10 individuals. We meet in a public art museum in the afternoon, quiet time in the museum. We go into our galleries where we provide chairs. We talk, look, and have a very open conversation with a trained educator about a work of art. It might be a historical work of art. It might be an abstract work of art, contemporary work of art. And we'll talk for 20 or so minutes. And then we will walk through the museum and then go up to our art studio. We have an elevator. We also have stairs. And then in the art studio, our teaching artist will welcome us and introduce a creative project. Using each week, it's a different project, riffing off of something that might have been discussed or noted in the gallery exhibitions. And that experience in the studio is very much about process, not about finished product, but trying different materials out, whether it's watercolor paint, clay, collage, printmaking. And then pre-COVID, we would wrap up with some social time and then get back together and talk about each other's work. So I would describe that to the care partner and then say, is this a program you think that your loved one would enjoy? And then that's great because, you know, they'll consider, would that person enjoy being with a group of 10 people? Would they enjoy being together for 2 hours? It is interrupted in time with different activities. We will ask in registration some pointed questions because it's you know, that's kind of the first time we're getting to know the person. And, you know, through all of this, everything we're talking about is so much relationship based. To me, that's what I can share from my experience doing this, is it's so much of us just being with each other and learning about each other and listening. The listening part is so important. So anyway, so we do ask if there's any special needs, hearing, vision, mobility, and then learn more about the person's past, interest, current interest, that sort of thing. And so ultimately, as I said, we'll take 5 couples for the class. So again, typically I would say that it is early to early mid stage, but again, over 13 years of doing this program, I would say there's been maybe 4 times where it was a participant who might have been a bit more progressed that we felt like we couldn't provide really a great experience for them. That program, just a couple things before I move on to our other program, is again, that is offered as a 6-week program. We offer it like 5 or 6 times a year. It is free. I'm always very much asking people in exchange for their participation and commitment to a 6-week class that they do participate to an evaluation that we ask them to fill out from the first class and then following the last class. I will say that's what's so beautiful and why this kind of 6 weeks has ended up being kind of the sweet number is just seeing that community that develops. And whether it develops over people sharing, starting to say, oh, so, noting somebody's art style, or, oh, wow, you wouldn't believe how many people too that we get like, oh, we met on the zoo walk, and so building on that community is really beautiful. So then got Here Now launched, and then about 4 years into the program, I became really aware of the challenges that some of our participants were experiencing, as well as realizing that there were many people in the community who, for various challenges, would find the program difficult at the museum. And I also just felt like, wow, we have this like responsibility. I mean, we start this relationship with people, and then what do? We say, oh, sorry, you're too progressed now. And so I really wanted to figure out how we could continue that. And that's then how our program Bridges developed. Bridges is a program initially funded by a federal grant, IMLS, Institute of Museum and Library Services. It was a 2-year grant that kind of 2 parts. One is that we were allowed to expand our Here Now program, and also then launch this Bridges program out in the community and at private homes. I was inspired for the group program that goes to care communities by a program called OMA, which many of you might know of, Opening Minds Through Art. I benefited from training with that program, and then kind of gleaned the elements from that program and created our program Bridges. Probably the greatest thing, 2 big things I gleaned from OMAs. One is the importance of having trained volunteers who work one-on-one with the same older adult. The second thing I gleaned was recognizing that how great doing abstract art is, and just the importance of, even as a person progresses, giving them choices, because that's what happens, is those choices are taken away as we age. And so Bridges, again, it was actually, we did it as a 2-year pilot. Over those 2 years, we went into 12 different either care communities or adult family homes. We had a lead teaching artist who would develop a super creative project. We would have a training of volunteers, volunteers from students to older adults who are retired, who would make a commitment to go one-on-one as a group to a care community and work with the same older adult for those 6 weeks. Those were definitely people that were living in late, mid to advanced dementia. I would say that really the one-on-one was really what has made that program successful. While it's also a creative project, so much of it was just that relationship between the volunteer and that person. Concurrent to the Bridges program going into care communities, we would also offer it to private homes. So, for example, one woman I worked with she used to come to our program, our Here Now program that was just a gallery discussion. We would also offer that program as well as the program that included art making. This woman loved to go and look and talk about art. And then her dementia progressed a lot, first with her mobility, and then some more challenging cognitive challenges. And so the family invited me to come, and I would go to their home, and I would sit with a book, and we would look at those works, and sometimes we'd look at the works on her walls. And so that was a way to continue that engagement. To wrap up, I mean, Melinda, wow, you were just so articulate in describing what I think makes a successful mid-stage program. I think, again, to me, so much is that relationship and really giving time in planning a program, and again, being really considerate of the environment, time of day, how many other things are going on, noise level, distractions, that sort of thing, being nimble, and again, just being really present for that individual, whether it's a person living with dementia, or in our Here Now program, being equally attentive to the care partner. So thank you for the opportunity. I will add, our Bridges program is on hold. We are not, we're still kind of waiting to see where things are, and also, just to be totally transparent, it is a very intensive program for training, and we have felt that we really need to get things going back on the ground here at the museum. So Bridges is on hold for right now. So great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mary Jane. Thank you for what you personally have invested for over a decade there at the Fry Art Museum, and I really honor the work of the Fry in your pioneering role in bringing creative arts to people with dementia through a museum-based setting, and then thinking through how to maintain that relationship over time. So thank you for bringing that today. And last but not least, I want to welcome Kay Lambert. Kay is a wonderful volunteer with the UW Memory and Brain Wellness Center. I've been so lucky and privileged to get to know her over multiple years now, and she co-facilitates our weekly virtual coffee chat for people with memory loss. And she's going to share a little bit about that program and how that works in combining folks with early and maybe more mid-stage dementia.
Thanks, Mary Grace. So yeah, as Mary Grace said, it's a weekly virtual coffee chat. I guess it's been running since the beginning. Kevin's giving me the thumbs up. Thank you, Kevin. I love it. It's been running since the beginning of the pandemic. Is that right, Mary Grace?
Yeah, and sorry, I told you I was going to give a little overview.
No, that's okay.
I can give a one-sentence overview. My one-sentence overview. Yes, the pandemic happened. All of our programs stopped, and then it was like, what now we do? Oh, we need to stay socially connected. So we started a once-a-week online social group for people with memory loss. And Kevin was one of the founding members, there. And in fact, Kevin led like a 6-week and then more series around different themes like hope, perseverance, resilience, and really encouraging others with memory loss going through their experience of living with memory loss and COVID at the same time. So yeah, it was very open, come one, come all, no screening, literally just sign up online and show up, like trying to be no barrier, not saying it was for anybody, any particular stage of dementia, and really that focus primarily and solely on social connection. So just providing a regular once-a-week chance to get online, say hello to others who are there with you, and feel that support. So all right, Kay, go ahead.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so yeah, with that, Mary Grace asked me to just talk about a few things that I feel like over the time that I've been doing it, some things that help make it work, and a few of the challenges that we face. And so I think like the number one thing, and Mary Grace really emphasized this in our training, was the number one thing is to have an atmosphere of welcome. And so it's just like she said, there's no questions asked, please come, and then you're welcome here. And so that's hopefully that's the feeling that people get as soon as they are joined from the waiting room, from our little Zoom waiting room. The other thing, one of the other things that we always start out with in our groups is an icebreaker, and we try to change it up. We revisit some from time to time, but it's a great way it's just such a level playing ground. So no matter when you've joined the group, if you're new, if you've been there for two or 3 years, everyone's starting from the same place. And so it can just be, we've done like, what's your favorite meal? Like what, are you a chocolate person or a sugar sweets like we try to play with choices sometimes if we feel like that gives people an easy response, and so everyone can participate. And people, like, depending on the answer, actually one of the recent favorite ones was like if you had a celebrity crush, and so that was kind of a fun one to invite people. I mean, we can get really playful with it, and it was just really fun to have people join in and offer whatever's on their mind at that moment. It's actually really helpful to have a mixture of folks who've joined the group at different stages of the group, so that people who've been there longer are so welcoming to new members. New members can bring like kind of a fresh energy, fresh questions, and it's always nice. It gives that sense of like, oh, we're just like, you just never know who you're going to meet. For newer members, it's nice when they come into the room, there's always something that they have in common with someone else who's already been there. And so that sense of connection, like Mary Jane, you were saying, this relationship and that sense of being connected to people. So folks who've been there longer, like if someone's missing, they're, hey, where's so-and-so? Like Kevin, I think you were missing for a while because you had an in-person program you were going to. Week after week, people are like, where is Kevin? Like everyone wanted to know. And so they really are building these relationships. And I feel like there's just this felt sense of non-judgment, whether it's, you can't think of the word, you can't quite recall, and people help each other out if they can, or they're just really quick to say like, hey, we've all been there. People tell a lot of jokes, whether they're related to memory loss or not. But one of the things they'll always tell someone who's new to the group is they say, we laugh a lot here. And that's really lovely. One of the members recently, he's been trying to get, he wants to get Bruce Willis to join our group. He really feels like he says, I keep hearing Bruce Willis is doing this other thing, but I really think our group is what he needs. Our group is the best thing out there, and everyone needs to have a group like our group. And it's so as a volunteer, it's so affirming to hear that he's like actively trying. Mary Grace, this is one of the things they want to do at the picnic. They want to film a video to send to Bruce Willis so that we can get him to join. So yeah, and then, and there are challenges. Yes, there are some challenges, and, sometimes there are, as like we've noticed with a couple of members that were regulars, as their condition progresses, it's harder to keep them engaged. Whether it's that the topic isn't what they're interested in, or I think there was a time when we had folks who were maybe a lot more on the early stage side. So there was a lot more dependence on recalling things or things like that. And so then their care partners might say, hey, we've noticed that the group has been more focused on remembering things, and that's really hard. Or a couple times if it's hard to know when to speak or when to mute or things like that. There have been some challenges like that, but often we find that the social connection is so helpful and so like joy giving for people that the care partner might stay present and assist with technology as needed. I think more than, I don't know, it's a challenge, but it seems to be flowing more recently. There are folks who, especially in the early stage, they're kind of coming into the group wanting support for like, hey, what are you doing? Maybe what medications are you trying, or which doctor are you seeing? And because we try to keep it as a social group, it's not that we won't talk about those things, but some people, when they come to the group, they're wanting more of that. And it's not always, it's not always what the group is about, but there have been some recently, some really rich sharing around whether it's a research study people are joining or just different exercises or ways of staying healthy that they're really receptive. They're like, oh, those are great suggestions. And hearing it from someone who's going through the same thing as you, it's so different from hearing it from someone else. Like, it doesn't feel like a finger wag. So those are some of the, yeah, I hopefully, Mary Grace, that answers those couple big questions. And yeah, that I couldn't think of anything else.
That's awesome. Kay, that was fabulous. Thank you so much for your dedicated volunteerism. Kay's amazing. She started when she was a student at FPU in the Marriage and Family Therapy program, and now she's since graduated. So she's now working as a marriage and family therapist, including with caregivers and people with dementia. I so appreciate, Kay, that you've stayed involved as a volunteer, and your heart for the group is so evident. So thank you. All righty. So it's 4:02. Thank you. I know everybody always says they want more time in the breakout rooms, but I do want to give us a few minutes at least to ask questions. So let's go ahead and get our burning questions out there to our wonderful panelists, Melinda, Mary Jane, and Kay. I saw one question from Emily, or no, who was it from? Erica had a question. How long is the zoo walk start to finish? Melinda, can you answer that one?
For most people, it's about an hour and 45 minutes. But some people have to leave and don't come to the social time every once in a while, which is fine. It's whatever. But a formal part of it is anywhere from an hour and 45 to 2 hours.
I was thinking that they meant distance. Like how much distance is the zoo walk?
Oh, okay. So it's about a mile with the middle stage group. And we switch, there are about 6 routes. Some are long, some are short. There's one inside. So the weather has a lot to do with it. We may cut it short if like on Monday when it was pouring rain and we spent more time at social. So it just depends.
Great. And another question for you, Melinda, is what do the care partners do during the zoo walk?
They, especially with the middles, they walk with us. I mean, they're an integral part of the walk. And especially with the middle stage group, we ask them to pay attention to their partner. Some of them need more attention. And so we rely on them to do that.
Great. Pam and then Erica. Yeah, let's do Pam and then Erica.
You're muted, Pam.
You said that you use more volunteers for the middle stage walk, and I think it was 4 for the early stage. So is there a ratio there, or?
Yes, there is. For the middle stages, we try it 4 to 1.
4 to 1. Thank you.
It's not, that's our goal. It's not always that way. We're a little short on volunteers right now. So if you know of anyone that might be interested, we are looking for more volunteers. And sometimes it depends on the mix of the group. It really does.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And Erica, do you still have a question? Yeah.
Oh, thanks, you guys. Loved all your presentations, and I loved that they were so different in the physical, Melinda, and the artistic product making, Mary Jane, and the conversation, and also the online stuff that Kay that was doing too. So sort of this whole broad range of things. And my question is, because all of this is, in Seattle right now, and for those unfortunate of you that are not located in Seattle, that sucks. But for the rest of you, we are so, because we have all this rich opportunity of the universities that are right in our neighborhood. Have you guys thought about, or do you think that there is a way that there may be a way of developing this, all 3 of these opportunities and more, and the Taproot as well, into like service learning opportunities for the schools that are out there, the PTOT, speech therapy, the Cornish schools, and getting credit out there for these students to get in and adopt your programs as their volunteer projects, and then just have an ongoing support group, pipeline.
Anyone want to comment on ways that you've worked with students potentially in your programs? Mary Jane.
Yeah, well, certainly with our Bridges program, we have had university students, as well as we've had till a couple years ago a creative aging 1-year internship. So they were, getting credit for an internship program. And so I guess that's all I can address. We haven't had like a whole systematic training, beyond that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I guess that's what I can add to that. And to be honest, it's also like a capacity issue, as far as being, it's just kind of like, what can we do with our limited resources? And I'm delightful after 12 years to finally have some support in creative aging, and Sam Sanders is with us here today. And so it's really wonderful. But yeah. Great idea, though. I wish,
The coffee chat program does reach people across the state. And Kay, I mentioned, started when she was a grad student at SPU, and currently is co-facilitating with the undergraduate from University of Washington. I've had also social work practicum students that facilitate that, and then geriatric residents that rotate through 6 weeks of time have also played a big role. So it's definitely been really successful in terms of people and student involvement. And honestly, it's like the biggest privilege for students to actually get to have that window into what it's like to live with memory loss, and to be welcomed in also. So it's a really big gift, I think. Okay.
Mary Grace, I wanted to just add one thing I forgot to mention, is that we have folks joining from like not only all over Washington State, so not just in Seattle for sure, but people all over Washington State. In addition, like we have a regular attendee from Minnesota, and someone just joined from, I want to say Chicago. She just joined, and she found out about it from like a grad student who was just talking about, who I don't know, somehow interacted with some of the Memory Hub programs or something. And this grad student mentioned, oh, and over at UW, they have this coffee chat, and it's great. And and so she got curious, and so she found out about our coffee chat from a person totally unrelated to in a different state. And so she just joined for the first time. And so, yeah, I just wanted to say, like, I think there's a need for more access to these things. And Kevin's mentioned how helpful Zoom's been, just being able to jump onto a meeting that makes it so caregivers aren't needing to drive participants to and from, and all of those things as well. So even though there are these technology issues from time to time, the Zoom platform, even though it's like we want to see each other in person, we're trying to plan an in-person thing. There's this greater access. But yeah, I forgot to add those things when I was talking. Sorry. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Erica? We have had students participate in the zoo walk, but I have found when they've been on my zoo walk, they're not always consistent. And they themselves often need attention, or, attention is not the right word, but they want information that I don't have time to really give them. So I end up feeling badly that I can't spend more time with them. But if they wanted to make, a 6-month commitment to come, and, I'm willing to work afterwards with them. I'm happy to train anyone or help anyone that wants to start a zoo walk. We're putting together how to zoo walk, how to do zoo, I forget what the name is, but we're working on putting something together that we can, send out to anyone that wants to start. It doesn't have to be a zoo walk. It can be really any kind of walk. So if you have something in mind, let me know. Give it a try.
That's awesome. Thank you, Melinda. Lynn, I saw your question about if the coffee chat would stay online, and yes, we're planning to keep it online based on popular demand. It's a very viable program. Okay, we're almost at our closing point. I see, Kay, you have to leave. Thank you. I do want to give us a chance just for like 3 minutes to get into pairs and share a takeaway or something that stood out to you, because not everybody has gotten a chance to actually say something today. So I'm just gonna, Allison has breakout rooms just in pairs. And when you gather with your other person in your breakout room, just share something that stood out to you, or if there's a takeaway that applies to you, and then we'll come back and close right at 4:15.